All right, so another review. This one's from October 18th, Mutilated Fest. So I think it's only the second or third one they've done, and this was in New York. And beheaded, incinerate, dripping, pyrexia, malignancy, extremely rotten, cerebral hemorrhage, sanguinary verdict, concrete, and infernal oath. Now I missed infernal oath, concrete, sanguinary verdict, and I missed most of cerebral hemorrhage's set. So the idea behind this was kind of a death metal brutal death type of night. And it was at this small little venue with a cool little outdoor patio type thing, called the Meadows. I will say the sound wasn't terrific. That aside, it was a really great DIY spot. Walked into I think Cerebral Hemorrhage like their last three songs, maybe two. They were okay. I didn't really see enough of them to speak on them. Extremely Rotten was up next. They were pretty cool. They were fun. You know, not a band I think I would listen to a lot, but I think that it's just hard to. There's so much, right? So they're like a brutal death, and they kind of have like the horror and aliens and gore and stuff. And I think it was one of those things where like I would see them again. I definitely wouldn't mind seeing them again, but they're just not a band that like hits me for what I'm looking for. So nothing against them at all. Malignancy was up next. These guys crushed it. Definitely one of the highlights of the night for me. They were a band where like I feel like I would go, like if they were the headliner, I would go to see them again. New to me, even though I mean Malignancy, fairly well known. I feel like fairly well known band, but who knows anymore? There's a gazillion bands out these days, and so they were tech death, which for me I typically am not into the tech stuff, but these guys just they did a really good job, and I feel like I wasn't pushed out by the tech. So real solid set, kind of blazed through it, and just did a great job. So if you like death metal with technical aspects but not maybe overly technical, right, go see them. Pyrexia was up next, and again these guys did it. Anybody who's like diehards know Pyrexia. Maybe not general fans or new fans, but I feel like enough people would know Pyrexia, and they did a great job. So what was I going to say about them? I mean, brutal death with kind of a bit of groove in there, and I don't know, something about them just works really well. Definitely a good stage presence, good stage command, and good metal. So that's another band where I feel like if you haven't seen them or if you haven't checked them out, definitely worth your time. Yeah, I don't know. So Malignancy was great. Pyrexia was great. Dripping was up next. Not my thing at all. But, they really brutal, chunky, heavy stuff. Oh God, what's his name from Sanguis Sugabog? The vocalist is now the vocalist in Dripping as well. So real heavy, not a ton of vocals, which I thought was a cool thing. But the vocals were incredibly heavy. And I mean, this is like nasty caveman, stompy, crushy music. So definitely, if you like the just heavy, stupid shit, stupid, of course, being a compliment in this conversation, go check Dripping out. The next band up was Incinerate, and now Jonathan Budo, who is from Incinerate's from like the Seattle area where I used to be, and I met Jonathan through one of his other bands, and then I kind of got to see Incinerate via that way. So I was also there to kind of support them, and it was nice to see somebody from the Seattle area. So I mean, these guys, they're really good, and their new stuff. I'm gonna just say this: you probably know Incinerate. Their new stuff was really good, and it sounded really good live. And I think that I think that alone. No, yeah, no. There's a different band Incinerate that's melodic death metal, and that wasn't them. So don't go that way. But sorry. All that aside, so they did great. Their new stuff sounds great, and they're. I feel like they're a band that probably should be a bit more recognized, and trying to put my bias aside, a bit more recognized than they are, because I think they're delivering some really great core stuff, um, without it being like, oh, here's just some modern death metal. So, and so the night was going on. Every band had, I think, like 25 to 40ish minutes. The headliners more 40. And that brings us to Beheaded, who they are from Malta. Okay, so I don't know much about Malta metal. They were pretty cool. It was like, I don't want to say it's straightforward death metal, because there were definitely parts that weren't, but it was definitely not your standard like American death metal, or even European death metal. There was something more to it, and I don't know if that was the Maltese kind of influence or just the musicians themselves. But and they went on and they definitely had a bit of a performance to it. So right, there was definitely some, like, I think a bigger venue, bigger stage, maybe fewer bands. They definitely would have had more of a kind of a performance. So I think that they're a band to keep an eye on, and we'll kind of see where they go. And of course, it's just really cool. I mean, how many bands from Malta do you know? So it's really cool to kind of get to know that world too, right? Metal's great for bringing culture to the forefront of the experience. So, as far as the fest itself, I think it was a cool fest. It was a nice group of bands that I hadn't seen before or I hadn't heard of, and I think that was exciting too. So there's that to look forward to next year, wherever they do it. Definitely make sure to hit up New York and check out Mutilated Fest.